All right, we're all good.
Okay. Welcome to a pre-World Series episode of Tater Talk. I am your host, Justin Ledger, and I am back with my co-host, Zach Hummel. Took a little bit of time off during the postseason. We're going to rehash pretty much everything that went on, all the notable stuff that went on in the playoffs, since we didn't get to touch on it much. But I am with Zach Hummel, and we are going to preview the World Series as well. It starts tomorrow, Zach. Are you excited?
I mean, you buried the league. You're the Boston Red Sox after the full season are in the
I
World
didn't want to
Series.
sound I didn't want to sound too much like a homer, but I know I knew at some point during the episode it was gonna come off that way, so might as well get it out of the way now. I'm pumped that the Red Sox are in the World Series. This team, if it didn't make it to the World Series, it would have been one of the bigger disappointments in Boston sports history. That's how good this Red Sox team was all season long.
It's been crazy though, because everything we've talked about in the regular season has shown its ugly head in the postseason. Like their bullpen still is a question mark. Yes, it did enough to get to the World Series, but I was telling someone today, this is the worst I felt about the better, like a good team. Like I don't feel great about this Red Sox team, but they're awesome. Like they don't lose. I don't know what it is.
So I felt that way heading into the ALCS. Once they beat the Astros in 5 games, I pretty much removed all the negative stuff from my mind. I think this is just a team of destiny. You don't win 108 games and then destroy, not just beat, destroy Houston, especially in Houston. And then you're not going to get negative stuff from me when you do that. I think they've won me over completely. The bullpen, like you said, with Matt Barnes, especially Matt Barnes has been awesome throughout the play. He had like one shaky inning, but other than that, he's been awesome. Nathan Eovaldi has been awesome out of nowhere. And Kimbrel's really the only shitty part of this pitching staff right now, which we're going to get to all that later. So that's a little preview for you. But I have really good vibes with this Red Sox team. We'll give our predictions, of course, at the end of the episode, how we think the World Series is going to pan out. But for now, let's go back in time. We'll start with the division series. We don't need to touch on the wild card games because we obviously know how they turned out. But we'll start with the Red Sox Yankees. What did you go into that series fully confident that they were going to beat the Yankees as bad as they did? Obviously, the Yankees took one game, and Aaron Judge played New York, New York outside the Red Sox clubhouse, and the rest is history. What was your confidence level during the series? Was there any panic as a Red Sox fan?
There was definitely, I wouldn't say it was panic, but I wasn't 100% confident. I mean, the Yankees played well in the wild card game, and coming in, I think they had the better lineup. I would say we had the pitching edge, but after Judge did that, in my head I was like, the Red Sox needed bulletin board material, and that was that. And they came out and won 16-1 the next day.
Right.
So after that game, the 16-1, like they're dead and buried. The Yankees aren't. You don't come back to 16-1 in your own house in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
at that point, I had full confidence, but not really going into the series at all.
Yeah, I mentioned right before this the whole Kimbrel shitting his pants thing. That was the only moment during the series that I was scared. When Kimbrel came in and was throwing balls into the dirt, like all hell was breaking loose, and then Gary Sanchez hit that ball to left field. I thought it was over right there, and that's when I started panicking. Once he got out of that, I'm like, they got this. We're good. We're in great shape going forward. Going into Houston, I was not confident at all. Like I said, they took 5 there. And we can go right into that series. I think the standout, we'll leave off talking about Red Sox Yankees. I think Eovaldi was the guy in that series. He showed me a lot. I know he pitched the 16-1 game, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So, I mean, he had a huge cushion. He didn't really have the Yankee Stadium pressure that one would usually have, but he still went into Yankee Stadium and quieted that crowd by himself. He still did spectacular there. So you got to give him credit where credit is due there. And then this Houston series, he did it again. He did it out of the bullpen. He did it as a starter. So Eovaldi has been a standout guy for me. Who else stood out to you in the Houston series?
Yeah, the Houston series. I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. obviously coming out of nowhere to just hit piss missiles to the moon, like on Grand Slam. Like you hit a Grand Slam in the ALCS. That's great news. I mean, that's just something he'll never forget. And he like played it so coy too in the interviews. He was like, just another game, just another game. Seems like I didn't really know he was that introvert rather than extrovert. Yeah. So I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. for me was the player of that series because I think the pitching was Astros definitely had the advantage, but once you go into a series like that, it's kind of all bets are off.
Yeah, the crazy part to me is all three of his hits, his only three hits, were clutch hits. They were game changers in each game that he got those hits in. And so obviously he's deserving of the ALCS MVP, which he won. I still think you sit him for the World Series. We'll get to that in a few, but Jackie Bradley Jr. showed me a lot. Very few people were, I shouldn't say that. A lot of people were negative about JBJ all season long, like mainly at the plate. Obviously, there's nothing to be negative about with him in the field. That's why he's an everyday player. It's because of what he does in the field. But he showed me something in the series at the plate. I didn't think he had that in him to come up in a big spot and hit like that. He's never really shown us that before. He usually goes up there and turtles and looks at every single pitch and then sits down. He showed me a lot in this series. So hats off to Jackie Bradley Jr. And another person I want to mention from this series, Andrew Benintendi. This guy's fielding has improved so much over the past year. His base running has improved. Benintendi is becoming a star before our eyes. I think next year he's even going to make an even bigger jump. You got to remember how young he is. He's still in the early stage. He's not in his prime yet. In other words, I'm very happy with what I'm seeing from Benintendi as well.
Yeah, he had the biggest catch of the series when Kimbrel was in trouble and he bailed them out. And I was even nervous in the clinching game with the last hit, like going to the wall. Benintendi always has a good read on the ball, but it just always seems like, oh God, this could be over his head. But he just strolls back and gets it.
Yeah.
And how about David Price in that?
Yeah, that was going to be the next guy I mentioned. So I know there's this narrative about David Price. He didn't have the pressure on him, blah, blah, blah. It was, if the Red Sox lose that game, they throw Sale out there in game 6 and all is well. I don't buy that narrative at all. I think there's pressure no matter what in a playoff game. I think there's pressure especially for David Price in a playoff game because he still has to go out there and show that he can perform in the postseason. That's a narrative it's been the monkey on David Price's back for his entire career. Ever since probably like 2008 with the Rays. It's been that narrative. He cannot perform in the postseason. This was the first time he really showed us, I'm still David Price. I'm still ready to dominate. He showed me something in that start. He still has to perform in the World Series for me to say that he's completely redeemed himself. But there's a chance, I'm not saying the Red Sox lose game 6 and game 7, but there's a chance the Red Sox aren't in the World Series if it's not for that David Price start. And for that, I think he should win some Red Sox fans over for that alone.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You're facing Verlander in a clinch game.
Right.
I'm always like, if you have a chance to clinch, go ahead and clinch because, like you said, it's a crapshoot in every game going into it, in my mind. So he outpitched Verlander. There's nothing more you can say about that. That's an impressive on the road, no less, because he usually cowers on the road. So,
and he's not facing the Orioles or the Blue Jays or the Rays or these shitty teams that he dominated all season long. This was the Houston Astros. These were the defending champs. These were guys with, top to bottom, that lineup is unbelievable. He shut down Alex Bregman. He shut down all the big guys in that lineup. He shut down Correa. He shut every big name at Springer. Everyone in that lineup couldn't get a hit off this guy. And that says something. Again, he's going to have to do it against the Dodgers too, for me to be like, okay, David Price has won over Boston, but he's on the right track. And I think that's all you can ask for at this point. David Price was another star from this series. There's a couple big moments that happen in the series, I think, that are going to go down in history. Like, for example, if the Red Sox win the World Series, they'll be on the World Series DVD. Is that catch, or I shouldn't say catch, but the interference with Mookie? I think that was the turning point.
What was your take on that, by the way?
It should have been a home run.
Me too.
I think it should have been a home run because you can't just come to that conclusion that Mookie makes that play. I know AJ Hinch said it post game. Obviously Mookie Betts, and he's an incredible athlete. But you can't just be like watching that replay and say, no doubt that's a 100% fan interference. He could have made the catch. I think you got to rule that. Mookie's glove was in the stands. That should be a home run. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, if I was an umpire, if I'm Joe West, I don't call that a home run the second I see it.
I'm drawing a line.
I don't call that no.
Yeah, I'm drawing a line in the sand here. If you're on the the side of that being interference and that not being a home run, you're a Red Sox fanboy. And I don't have any shame of saying that because my friends who are fanboys were saying that's interference. He 100% would have caught that.
Right.
That's 100% not true, man. Like everyone that has a brain, even if you're a Red Sox fan, that is a home run. Mookie Betts is reaching into the stands. Once you reach into the stands, all bets are off.
Anyone it says that in the rule book.
Yes, and it wasn't like it was barely out like some of those Yankee Stadium ones where someone's reaching over and getting it. That was like row and a half into the seats. So
yeah,
I mean that would have been a turning point too because that was a big home run from Altuve.
It could have been a momentum changer. Who knows how the Red Sox offense goes after that? They shut down that Astros crowd early, mainly because of that. Now, if that's a home run, that Minute Maid Park is rocking for the entire game.
Yep.
So again, it was the turning point of the series. It went the Red Sox way. I think it should have been a home run. I do think there's a chance I think Mookie Betts maybe would have made that catch. I think there's a pretty good chance he does make that catch. I just don't think you can come to that conclusion by watching the replay and being like, he's out. Like a lot of people are I forget who it was who said that it should have been ruled a double. I wouldn't have I think that actually would have been pretty fair. A lot of people are saying that would be stupid because like you can't just call that a ground rule double or anything like that, but it makes more sense than an out in my mind.
Think if that happened to a Red Sox player at Fenway Park. I mean, there would have been riots. That would have been insane.
My God.
I can't believe Houston handled it that well.
Yeah, honestly. I know. And that's, I mean, to be honest, I don't want to like downplay the Astros fan base, but that's the difference between a market like Boston and a market like Houston. I know Houston's very passionate about their sports, but Boston and New York are like a different level. And I think either one of those fan bases would have rioted if this didn't go in their favor. Yeah. So that was a big moment. We already covered the Benintendi catch. One more thing I want to touch on from this series, the Alex Bregman Instagram story where he showed the back-to-back-to-back home runs off Nathan Eovaldi. Bregman should have learned from Aaron Judge's mistake with the boombox. I thought it was a cool move by Bregman at first because I like cockiness. I like all that stuff. But I think he should have taken a page out of the Aaron Judge book and not done this because it obviously sparked Nathan Eovaldi. It sparked the whole Red Sox team. This is a team that feeds off bulletin board material. And I don't think that was a smart move.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a sensitive Red Sox team for a while. This core group of guys, I mean, you heard the stuff with Price and Eckersley last year and Jackie Bradley Jr. and Eckersley last year. If you criticize them or you say anything nay about them, they get up in a tizzy. And Bregman doing that, he is becoming one of the biggest villains in MLB, and I love it.
He's not like a dirty player type villain. We'll get to a dirty player villain later. Yeah. But Bregman is he plays the game the right way. He's cocky as hell. I used to despise Alex Bregman, but he is the type of villain that you want to be a villain because it makes the game more entertaining. He's like a heel. He's like a WWE heel is what he is.
Yeah, and he how many plays did he make at third that ton of third basemen wouldn't make? He made so many good plays in that series.
Yeah, he's an outstanding all-around player. I love watching him play baseball. He had a rough series. I think his on-base percentage was like 7. I don't know about the exact numbers, but it was way up there. And his batting average was abysmal. He got on base a ton, but he couldn't get a hit. Obviously, he's the one who hit that almost game winner. Almost got past Benintendi, but Benintendi made that amazing catch. So, and the rest is history. So that's the American League. The Red Sox are in the World Series. Let's talk a little bit about the NL, which was way less entertaining. I don't know if that's bias on my part, but I thought the NLCS was way less entertaining than the ALCS.
Yep, 100%. And I think that's sort of why people are picking the Red Sox because they had to go through better teams and there was more entertainment and bigger markets. And the NLCS was just kind of fell flat, to be honest, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I love the Brewers, but I think it's kind of because it was the Brewers. That it was Dodgers, this big market team. It was David versus Goliath. I think the Brewers can go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers any day. I think they're pretty much the same level of talent as the Dodgers. But when the casual fan is watching a Dodgers-Brewers game, that's pretty boring. That's a pretty boring matchup. So
I think the Dodgers are even a pretty boring team. Other than the Machado thing and Kershaw's boring. They don't Puig's the only guy that creates some sort of controversy left or right. So they're pretty white bread as well.
Yeah, it's Machado, Puig, and then everyone else is just Whatever.
Yeah.
Bellinger's pretty exciting too. Bellinger, I think, won an NLCS MVP and made some pretty exciting plays. But when you really go down the list, there's really not much to write home about. So yeah, that's definitely a reason why this series was boring. But there was one exciting moment, and that was Machado, who we mentioned, and we're going to talk about him at length probably in this show. Machado's, it started in game 3, his slide into second base. We've seen Machado do this kind of slide a million times, where he almost took out the shortstop, and like he did this, or second baseman, I forget who it was, but he, like, there's the Dustin Pedroia incident from last year that you can go back to. He has a history with these types of incidents, and he topped it off in game 4 with an incident that was even worse, running through first base, kicking Jesus Aguilar. That's your guy. You love Aguilar, and you must have been, yeah, you must not have been pleased to see Aguilar spiked like that.
No, I mean, I'm surprised Aguilar didn't do anything. He's twice his size. He could have legitimately thrown Machado to the ground or get him in a headlock or something. I don't know what's going on with Aguilar that he didn't fight back there. That was the dirtiest of the dirty play. Knew exactly what he was doing.
I have a take with this play. It was dirty. No doubt. It was dirty. What is Aguilar doing leaving his foot? I've never seen that before. Leaving his foot on the bag at like 10 seconds after catching the ball at first base. I've never seen that. That's just an honest question.
Just a fat guy move. Like, he's just lazy. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's a reasonable answer. Is it's a fat guy move, because I have not seen Prince Fielder probably would have done the same thing, I guess. But like, I've just never seen that before. So I kind of see Machado's side there. He easily could have avoided Aguilar's leg though. So that's where it comes in, where it's like, you can't, it's a hard move to defend.
Yeah, exactly. And you could, by the way he reacted to it in the games after that, where he's like pumping up the crowd, like, yeah, bring it to me. I think he knew what he was doing. I think he knew what he was doing, though. Like, a guy that was sorry for it would kind of keep to himself and not say, like, I don't even want, you guys booing me. I didn't mean to do it. But he was kind of feeding into it.
I'm not a Machado fan. I'm a fan of his ability. I'm not a fan of the person. But I liked what he did when he struck out in that first at-bat in game 6 in Milwaukee. He struck out. And like, well, he was getting booed like crazy when he stepped up to the plate, and then he struck out, and the cheers were so loud at Miller Park that he nodded his head, looked at the crowd, and raised his arms. And I was like, that, if you're going to be a villain, embrace being the villain. I like seeing that rather than pretending that you're not the villain.
Yeah, the Milwaukee fans were pretty crazy, I have to admit. That was like a good environment to watch a game in,
You know what? As long as the Brewers, I hope the Brewers are good these next couple of years, because it is fun to watch Miller Park when it's like that. When they're all with the yellow towels and everything, it was a good atmosphere. As long as the Brewers have another couple really good years in them, they won't be boring when they make it to the playoffs. They'll be an exciting team. No one expected them. No casual fan went into watching a Dodgers-Brewers game at Miller Park expecting the crowd to be that rowdy.
Yep. Nope.
So that's really, I mean, NLCS, like I said, was not that exciting outside of Machado and Puig. Puig had some really big hits in this series. He did a bat flip on a single, which I thought was pretty funny. He had an RBI single. He bat flipped. He looked at the dugout, did his weird thing with his tongue, and you know how Puig is. Puig was just Puig in this series. And I got to be honest, in this Red Sox-Dodgers series, I'm very excited to watch Puig on this stage. Against the Red Sox. I know we saw him on this stage last season against Houston. I'm excited to see it against Boston, because we don't get to see these two teams match up very often. And it's a lot. There's a lot of flashy, like, I guess the Red Sox aren't as flashy, but there's going to be attitudes in this series.
Yeah, and like Puig, game 7, he hit that home run.
Yeah,
and he went around the bases. I hate to take that. Don't do that, dude. If you hit a home run in game 7, pimp it all you want, honestly.
Well, did you see that ad that MLB put out before the postseason? It was with Ken Griffey Jr. was narrating it, talking about, like, he was basically saying fuck all the unwritten rules is pretty much what he was saying in the ad. And so I think baseball is heading in the right direction in that aspect. And I think guys like Puig, Baez, all these guys are going to start being encouraged to do this, because, or at least I hope so, because it is so fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to like Puig, but you can at least be like, I get why he's celebrating.
Yeah, like when Puig drives the ball, you're like, oh, what is he going to do running around the bases? Like, is someone going to take exception to it? Is he going to get beamed in this next?
Gives you a reason to watch the game. There aren't a ton. I mean, I'm a big baseball fan. There aren't a ton of things that I can use to convince my non-baseball fan friends to tune into a baseball game. unless I say, hey, Yasiel Puig is in the game today and who knows what he's about to do. And then they might tune into that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think this World Series, like you were mentioning earlier, it's going to be who can control their emotions the best, because I think it can also backfire on a guy like Puig. Like, he'll make some plays in right field trying to be the hero where he just dives and totally misses the ball. And we know how it is to play right field at Fenway. So that'll be really interesting to watch.
Yep. And that's perfect segue into a little bit of World Series previewing that we're about to do here. Let's just give our predictions now, and then we'll preview the series. That's one reason I like the Red Sox in the series. I just think they're the smarter, more disciplined team. I think Alex Cora is very good at disciplining their players, keeping them in check, making sure they're not getting too ahead of themselves. I think this team is very good at living in the moment, not getting too hyped up until they actually win the game. That's the mental part of baseball is arguably bigger than talent when it comes to this type of environment. When you're in the World Series, you got to be level-headed. The Dodgers, they haven't, like, especially guys like Puig, I don't think you can go to a World Series and be an unbelievable performer when you're not being level-headed for a 7-game series. I just think the mental part of it, the Red Sox have the edge.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think the cold weather playing here too will have a factor. I just think they played in a dome in Milwaukee and then they played out in LA. Like, playing cold baseball in Boston in October going into November is a totally different animal to what they faced. And I think the environment will even come up another notch in the World Series. And I don't think the Dodgers are ready for it. Even though they did play last year in it, I think the Red Sox are more prepared given the environments they've played in this postseason.
Yep, and of course, there's a lot of connections between the Red Sox and the Dodgers in this series. You have Dodgers manager Dave Roberts. You know the history with him with the Red Sox, the steal, all that good stuff. I'm sure on the TV broadcast we're going to hear that. We're going to probably see that steal 1,000 times, which I'm fine with that as a Red Sox fan. I'll watch that steal all day. It still gives me the chills. And then on the other side, Alex Cora actually was Dave Roberts' teammate in LA, so that's pretty cool. Thing when both of them played for the Dodgers at one point. Obviously, Cora played for the Red Sox for a couple of years too. So there's that connection. And then the other thing is we already talked about the Manny Machado Pedroia slide. We're going to see how that carries over into the World Series. Do you think there's going to be any sort of bad blood in this series?
If Pedroia was playing, maybe, because Machado could slide into him and Pedroia could slide into Machado. But I don't think so. I think they'll tell Machado to keep under wraps because they cannot have him suspended. They need his bat in the lineup more than anything. So I think Roberts will give him a good talking to.
I would not put it past Machado to get himself suspended in the World Series. I really wouldn't.
Leave it to Machado.
But I do think it's hard to have bad blood in the World Series because of what's on the line. So if anyone was stupid enough to get suspended, whether it be on the Red Sox or the Dodgers, that would be one big mistake. So no one's going to throw at anyone intentionally. Now, if Machado pulls a Jesus Aguilar incident, say on like Steve Pearce or something, we might see some fireworks then. But if there's no cause to do it, like they're not going to retaliate for something that happened a year ago with Pedroia. They're going to play normal for the entire series. But if something happens, I would not rule it out. That's all I'll say. If Machado gives them a reason, the Red Sox are the kind of team that would retaliate.
The only way it happens, I think, is if a team, like let's say the Red Sox get up 3-1 in the series or 3-0 even, and Machado just already knows it's over and he just starts not caring about what happens. So
that's realistic. If Machado, he could be a sore loser. Like if he's down 3-0 in a series, he has nothing really left to lose, so he might just be a dickhead. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
So there's that narrative. That's that storyline. Machado, the villain, again, for another postseason series, something to keep an eye on. Who are some guys in this series that you have a special eye on other than Machado? Who could stand out to you as, I guess, maybe even being the MVP of the series?
So it's funny, like we were talking about, the Dodgers have a lot of lefties. So I think the righties within the Red Sox order will have a big part to play. So I think Betts could have a big series. I know that's obvious because he's like the MVP, but he didn't play that great in the first two series prior. I also think Ian Kinsler could have a big hits and that kind of stuff.
We all know how much you love Kinsler, so that says a lot.
I know that I'm saying. I just think the matchup, like they're lefties on our righties, like Steve Pearce even could have a big piece to play. So, and then on the Dodgers side, the thing I don't like about the Dodgers and baseball in general, they have a lot of guys who K a lot.
Oh yeah,
And
their batting average, they do not hit for average. That is for sure.
And I understand they've been playing the Brewers, who have a lot of strikeout pitchers, definitely more than the Red Sox, but they K on not even great stuff sometimes, especially watching some of that. So I think Chris Taylor, I mean, he had that huge catch in Game 7. He to me is a guy that can get on base, make contact, steal some bases, play good outfield. So he's a guy, I love his game, and I think he could be a big factor for them in this series.
Yeah, the main weakness in Chris Taylor's game, that's a guy a lot of people don't know about, by the way. Not a household name, but I think he can make a name for himself in this series, like you said. The main weakness in his game is he just strikes out a ton. But if he's in the zone at the plate, he's one of the better all-around players in the game who isn't like well known. I love watching him play. He's great defensively. He's great at the plate, like I said, when he's focused. So that's one guy. I have the World Series MVP odds in front of me if you want me to read them off quickly, and then we can kind of take our picks there.
Let's do it.
So Sale's the favorite as of right now at plus 550. That's actually pretty interesting to me, but I guess when you factor in the fact that he can start and then come in and shut down the Dodgers for 2 or 3 innings in relief too, if he's used in like say game 4 or 5 as a reliever. That could be interesting. So he's the favorite at plus 550. The next one up is Mookie Betts at plus 600. After that, it's both Clayton Kershaw and JD Martinez are plus 700. That's pretty good value, I would say. And then after that, Manny Machado plus 800. Craig Kimbrell and Justin Turner are both plus 1,200.
Why would Kimbrell even be in the top?
I was just about to say that. Why is Kimbrell plus 1,200 along with Justin Turner? Yeah. Like Justin Turner and Kimbrell having the same MVP odds makes zero sense. Now, next up, Kenley Jansen plus 1,400. Again, why is Kimbrell favored over Jansen? Maybe because the Red Sox are favored over the Dodgers, but even
why are closers even that high? Like, I don't know. I'd rather have a position player. Like, you're playing every day. You're in these big spots. If you have 2 or 3 big hits, that trumps even like a couple saves, honestly.
It makes zero sense. Cody Bellinger and Yassi. Now, this is some good value here. Bellinger and Puig are both plus 1,500.
Wow, that's good value. Yeah.
You could probably cash in with that. Obviously, that you'd have to hope the Dodgers win the World Series for that, but good value if you think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. Benintendi plus 1,700. Ian Kinsler plus 1,800. This next one I'm about to say I might actually put a little bit of money towards it. Xander Bogaerts plus 2,000. Bogaerts has been an unsung hero of this team all season long, and he could have a huge series. He could have a huge impact on this. Like, no one has really talked about how good of a season Xander Bogaerts had because Mookie Betts and JD Martinez were so good this year. Xander Bogaerts probably had the best year of his career this season. So that might be my pick. But Chris Taylor, David Freese, Steve Pearce plus 2,200. Matt Kemp and Max Muncy are both plus 2,500. And then you got JBJ at plus 3,000. He was ALCS MVP.
To go back to back, baby.
Yeah. So the reason I originally was like, that's great value, but there's a chance he sits a couple games. So I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I like
based on the odds.
Yeah. I mean, I hope the Dodgers don't win, but that Bellinger Puig, like if they do win, it's going to be because they outscore the Red Sox. I don't think Kershaw has the stuff to like stymie the Red Sox. I don't think he's a good candidate for it. I would pick one of those guys if I was on the Dodgers. From a Red Sox side, like I said, I think Ian Kinsler has a good shot. I don't like picking starters just because if Sale does win it, it'll need to be a quick series because like you said, he'll start game 1, he'll come in to a clinching game in game 4 or 5 and pitch 2 or 3 innings if the Red Sox are up by 2 or 3 runs, you know?
Yeah. Sale gets the MVP if he pitches an unbelievable game 1, comes in relief, has an unbelievable relief appearance to clinch the World Series. Like basically he has to allow 1 run tops in order to win the MVP award. I don't think that's going to happen. So my pick, if you disregard the odds, is Mookie Betts. I just think he's due for an unbelievable series. He still has yet to hit a home run, and a postseason home run ever. So he's been due for a while now. So he's my pick. Now, if I just had to go by the odds based on value, like I said, my pick is Bogaerts for the Red Sox side. And I think if you're a Dodger fan, or if you just think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series, that Bellinger and Puig, either Bellinger or Puig at plus 1,500 is a steal.
Yep. No, I agree 100%.
All right. So with that being said, what's your official prediction?
So I am going with Red Sox in 5.
Okay.
I'm sticking to it. That's it.
Red Sox in 5. Who did you say, not based on the odds, who your MVP pick is?
Oh, I'm going with Betts too.
Betts. Okay.
I think he wins it.
Well, we have the exact same World Series prediction. And that doesn't bode well for us, by the way, because we had the exact same matchup prediction. We both thought it was going to be Astros Brewers, and we were very wrong. And so hope maybe we'll make up for it by being right about this, but it doesn't bode well for Betts or the Red Sox that we were very wrong in our last prediction.
Yeah, I know. So what do you think the Red Sox do in the National League ballpark with Betts and JD Martinez?
That's a good question. So the amount of times I've been asked this at work over at NBC Sports Boston, we've had this discussion for at length for the past 3 days, and it's driving me insane because I know Cora has something up his sleeve. Cora wouldn't say that it's on the table unless it was very on the table and he plans on doing it. I think we're going to see Mookie at second base at some point in the series. Now, whether that's a trend when he's at Dodger Stadium, I have no idea what Cora has going on in his head. The guy's a genius. He's outsmarted everybody throughout the postseason. Yeah. I would be a little bit surprised if we don't see at least one game that Mookie Betts is not at second, because I think you got to at least try it out.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can sit Bradley and play JD. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's just that stuff always is weird to me because the NL team, they get another guy to DH. We already deal with it because we're in the AL, but us going to a National League ballpark throws everything into a wrench, you know?
When you go over to Dodger Stadium, the thing is, their outfield is enormous. I think you need JBJ out there. So I think you got to roll with your regular outfield and just put Mookie at second. I think at least one game you got to try it out and see if Jackie Bradley Jr.'s range in center field becomes a real factor, because if it is, then I think you have to have him in there. And I don't buy the ride the hot bat, because he actually hasn't really had a hot bat. He had 3 clutch hits, but he still batted like 170 in the ALCS. So it's tough to really make that argument. I think Jackie Bradley Jr. is mainly going to be used as a late defensive replacement in these games. It's going to be interesting. It always gets interesting when you have this interleague play. So I think that's definitely one of the bigger storylines that we're not going to really find out till Friday, probably, what the plan is when they go to Dodger Stadium, but it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, then we will leave off with our mailbag. So we have a couple mailbag questions here. The first one being, on the Dodgers side, do you believe that Matt Kemp, who had actually a really unexpectedly good year, do you think he should be the Dodgers DH in this series?
I think so. I think he hits lefties good, so you can start him versus Price and Sale. I think the Dodgers, after their starting lineup, like, there's no one on their bench that's like, I have to get in the lineup. They seem to do a lot of mixing and matching too. Dave Roberts does. They have a lot of depth on their bench. So I think you start Matt Kemp, and you can always replace him if you need a runner or something late in the game, you know?
Right. So I mean, I agree with you. I don't see maybe a couple games you use someone else. I think Matt Kemp is probably your DH. Based off what he's done for the Dodgers all season long. He's been unsung. I don't even want to say unsung hero. He's actually been the hero for this team for most of the season. He carried that offense when they weren't really getting it from anyone else for a period of time. So, I would say put him at DH. Another question here: who will be the player that earns all of America free tacos with the first stolen base of the World Series?
I'm gonna go with the Red Sox, because I think the Dodgers won't be able to run on Vasquez if he's the one that starts, or Leon. So I'm gonna go with Benintendi. I think he gets on and gets a steal early.
Benintendi's a good pick. I'm gonna play it safe and just go with Mookie Betts. I think he'll run, if it's Grandal catching, he'll run all day on Grandal. So that would be my pick for it. And we got one out. Shout out Dan Hussey. You've been sending us Rockies questions all season long, and we've kind of, I mean, we're obviously huge Rockies guys, so we do appreciate it. We ignored most of them for the season, but this one, I mean, the Rocky season came to an end in the wild card game against the, or I should say, sorry, the NLDS against the Brewers. And he wants to know, do you consider this Rockies season a success?
I mean, 100%. How could you say otherwise?
I would never say anything negative about the Rockies. Of course, it was a success.
Yeah.
The thing is with the Rockies, they've never won a World Series. They're in that same exact category as the Brewers. These two just small market. No one really cares unless they're playing well. They have a great team, but the chances are they're not going to win a World Series anytime soon. They're just kind of out there in their own little planet. And anytime they can make it this far, I think you honestly have to consider it a success for those types of teams. If it's like the Red Sox, the Yankees, nothing except the championship is a success. With those types of teams, you got to look at it like, hey, we made the playoffs. Let's get them next year. Like that's pretty much how those fan bases view it.
I mean, they won the wild card game at Wrigley Field, right?
That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, if you make the playoffs as the Rockies, that's a successful year, no matter what you do after that.
100% agree. So that's pretty much the mailbag. Those are our good questions anyways. We can leave off with Graz's last thing. Obviously, Graz isn't on the show today, but he did contribute. He left us a few talking points that he wanted to cover. So he says, first off, that he has the Red Sox in 6 games. So me and you had them in 5. We're unanimous here that the Red Sox are going to win this World Series. Surprising to me that Graz picked the Red Sox as a Yankees fan, but we appreciate it. Yep. And so he has the Sox in 6. But after that, he says Clayton Kershaw dominates both games he pitches. So I'm assuming he's saying that the Dodgers win both games that Kershaw is in and then lose the rest. So Clayton Kershaw dominates the games he pitches. I guess the narrative that he's a shitty postseason pitcher officially comes to an end in this series. And what else does he have here? David Price pitches well. Okay, that's a take. He also says Benny Ballgame, a.k.a. Andrew Benintendi, will hit a go-ahead or a walk-off hit. Could totally see that happening. Andrew Benintendi's been clutch.
Yep.
What else does he have here? He says, and lastly, the Red Sox are no longer lovable losers. They are indeed a second evil empire. I think it's been that way for a while, Graz. I think they've been not the lovable losers for at least probably like 10 years now.
I heard someone on Sports Talk Radio say, like, try to debate whether this Red Sox run, I guess you could call it, is a dynasty. No way. There's too many years. There's too many years in between all this.
Not a dynasty, but definitely not lovable losers for a while.
Oh, no.
There's no way any team in Boston can be considered lovable losers at this point or within the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, I mean, if they win this one, they've won 4 World Series in my lifetime. My dad couldn't say that.
Imagine being like, oh, the lovable loser Red Sox after they've won their 3rd World Series in like 10 years.
Yeah, like
even if
the
they had,
Yankees are the lovable losers now,
right? I mean, the Red Sox did have a couple last place AL East finishes. They had those rough years. I think like the early 2011, 2012, or I think it was around that. They were terrible. And then they obviously made up for it in 2013 with the title. So you'll take those last place AL East finishes every now and then if you're going to take home a World Series like the next year. So
100%.
It's good to be a Boston fan right now. I will say that. I think we'll leave off on that note. We'll be back after the World Series with probably the last episode of the year before we get into the off season. We still record in the off season when big things happen, but it'll be less. It'll be just like last season when we did that. So looking forward to see how this World Series pans out. I hope it ends sooner rather than later. I hope we have a nice clean sweep on our hands in Boston, but if the Dodgers make it a series, they'll make it a series and it'll be fun to watch.
That's another interesting point. Like when the Red Sox have been in the World Series, they have absolutely like
dominated,
blown out the NL team. So like hopefully it happens again, but I think this one will be a little bit more of a fight.
I find myself when I make predictions, I always say so-and-so in 6 games, so-and-so in 7 games. I always think it's going to be a series, and I never expect the 4 or 5 game series. The Red Sox over the years have convinced me that it's just so easy for them, for whatever reason, to just sweep teams in the World Series. So it's gotten to the point where I expect it to happen. So if they swept the Dodgers in a series, I'd be like, oh, yeah, of course, that makes sense. And I don't think that's a common thing to think going into a series.
Yeah, like as a Red Sox fan, we don't know what it's like to lose in a World Series.
Well, I
and
hope we
like,
don't regret saying
gonna
that.
And we'll leave it there.
We don't have that clip. Can't use that clip at the end, but no, I 100% agree. It's getting to the point. I mean, we're a very spoiled fan base. We should be pretty happy with everything the Red Sox have accomplished this season, win or lose. Obviously, this is a championship or bust town, but you got to appreciate at least that 108 win season plus what they've done in the postseason, win or lose. I think it's been hell of a ride, and let's see what they do this week and next week if it comes to next week.
Yep. Go Sox, baby.
Go Sox. We'll see you guys later.
Peace.